Hi YouTube, welcome back to Wtf Rc Cars. So we got another video today for the PL18 Ultra, and I'm going to show you the adjustability of the actual sticks and how we control the sort of auto return, stiffness, and what these little holes do. So let's bring in for a close-up look and see how we get on with this one. So the way you adjust the actual triggers is under these covers. But what I'm going to do to give you a better idea of what they actually do and see what other adjustability we've got is we've got the little icons on these, and it does say L and R, which ones it does. But to give you a better idea, I'm going to pop the back off the transmitter. So I've removed the screws from the bottom. We can just pop that off to one side, and then we'll just pop the grips up. And then I believe they're in these corners. So this is a 2.5mm hex. So we got one screw. That's the second one. That's the third one. And then also, I believe there's the 4 in the top, because I think this is all one piece, and looks like these are quite small. So these are 1.5mm hex drive, and it looks like all 4 that are in the transmitter itself, the body of the transmitter, all 4 of them are the same size, I believe. I'll check the last one when I get it apart. And I believe all 4 of these in the screen are the same size. Let's see if I can get them all out. So for this, I'm just going to unplug the battery pack, and I think we'll also need to pop these side rubbers off. But we only need them off the actual back of the transmitter. And then we should be able to prise this apart. That is our 4th screw from top. And we got one stuck in here. So yeah, all 4 screws from these and these. Bottom ones are all the same size, top ones are all the same size. We do have quite a lot of stuff in back. All these are ribbon cables, so be very careful if you're working on any of these. Is that a temperature sensor for charging? Possibly. There's twin antennas. So yeah, quite interesting to see what's in there. And then we basically get to see these with our adjustments. So if we just put them back, get them straight, if we have a look what we've got. So basically these are going to line up with the holes on the back. So you've got tension screw on the top on these 2. So you can see this screw should be on this one, and if we adjust this bottom screw, should be able to see what this does. So if we want to let the tension off, we're going to have to unscrew this, and that'll allow the tension to be released. Then for this, you see, as you back that screw out, it then lets this drop back into place. If we want more tension, should be able to increase it on this. If you want a bit more drag or resistance, you can tighten this down. and as you tighten it all the way down, you see it then gets really stiff. So no matter where this one is, it still won't let it auto return. So if you do need these auto returning, you can back that off. Still feels pretty weak, I must admit. And then this is the tension for the left and right. So if we flip the transmitter over, so for this one, if you wanted to use throttle with auto return, then it's this spring here that you'd adjust the tension on, and it's also this spring that you'd want to put a stronger spring on if you want more movement on that. If you've got this released from the inside, so we've got some movement springing back. Let's see what the most amount of tension we can let off it. I must admit that still feels pretty weak. So you're probably going to want to put a stronger spring on that one if you're going to use that for a throttle. And then if we wind this screw in, it stops it auto returning. So it takes the tension off altogether. And then as we back that out, you can see it'll then try and return. If you take it too far out, it'll drop off. So don't wind them all the way out. And this to me looks like on this one, it feels so weak that I'm questioning whether that is actually altering the tension at all or whether it's damaged, because it doesn't seem to be lifting that up. And basically that's what should happen. As you tighten it up, it should lift this up, and this feels to me like it's not doing anything at all. So if you start to put that in, as you tighten that, it should start lifting this up, and it's not doing. That should lift up like that. I think it was all the way off, because that now feels a lot better. That's how I'd expect it to feel. But now we really should be able to see what it does. So if this is one of the screws you can reach from the back, so as we put that in, you see it's now took all the tension off. As we put that back out, you can see we get more and more tension on it, and that does feel proper now. Also, this one, if you wind that out, it'll take the tension off the left and right movement. So that's now made the left and right movement much weaker. And as we put the tension back on, makes it a lot stronger. Not seeing any easy way to fix the movement on that if you wanted to fix it from moving left and right. Basically, you'd have to stop that movement. So you'd have to fasten that completely solid to stop it, because unlike the up and down, it doesn't have this where you can tighten it up. And then if we flick across to the opposite side, again, as left and right tension, this time is the bottom screw. So as we wind this in, takes the tension off. As we wind it out, puts the tension back on. So you can adjust them to how you like. And again on this side, if you want to sort of try and fix this in position, you add tension to this, and you can make it really, really stiff. If you back it off, you can make it nice and easy. Now for me, setting it up for possibly RC car use, I would tighten them down to make it really stiff. Also, you've got the tension adjust on this one. This also seems like this one has fallen completely off. So let's again back the screw up we are. Let's put a bit of tension on it. And make sure it's actually on. So I'm trying to get this one to adjust the actual tension. But as you screw it down, it's not lifting this up at all. So the actual design of these, I've took this out. There's a hole in the bottom. I don't know what Flysky were thinking with this. The way of adjusting the tensioners on these just does not work right. So the problem with this is when you turn this screw, rather than lifting this up, it's just screwing into the mechanism itself. So I'm not sure what Flysky were thinking with this. It's just a bad design. It doesn't work to add tension. So you can adjust this, but if you see, try and get it on video. So what should happen, this hole here should be a tiny hole, and the screw shouldn't be able to screw into it. But as you screw this down, the screw just screws all the way down into here rather than lifting this up and adding tension. So yeah, I think these gimbals need a redesign. It doesn't work like that on the other way of adjusting the tension. So if we look for this one, if you see, if I back the tension off, it allows the actual base to fall, and then if I add tension, the screw itself doesn't screw down, it lifts this mechanism up. That's not what we're getting on these. So if I take the screw out, the problem that we've got, and if I use this to demonstrate, is we've got longer than what the screw is, hole in the bottom of this. So when this screw goes in, it's got nothing to push against. It's just literally screwing in to this mechanism. So the adjusting doesn't really work at all. You can see on this one, that's just let go and popped all the way back in. It needs a little plate on the bottom of this for that screw to actually push against. So yeah, no clue what Flysky were thinking with this, but they've actually drilled holes in the bottom of these so it doesn't adjust at all. So yeah, your throttle tension is pretty much unadjustable on the PL18 Ultra. So the tension for doing this, it's just controlled by the spring. This actual tension screw just screws in and out of the mechanism itself. So yeah, Flysky, I think you need to redesign that one. For anybody that's got one of these, if you do have this problem, if you back this screw out, then all you need to do is put something in that hole underneath this. So let's see if we can get one of these out and find a fix for it. So if we simply stick a zip tie under it, just to show you what I mean, then if we screw this screw in, it's now screwing against the zip tie, and it actually lifts this up. So you can see it now rises and falls because the zip tie is providing some kind of base rather than this just having a hole for the screw to screw into. But yeah, that's one really easy fix for it. So you can use a zip tie, small bit of metal would do. Basically anything that will sit as a base under this screw and stop it going into the hole that Flysky's put there. Likewise on this one, as tension is adjusted by this mechanism, so the resistance that you feel is adjusted by this. If we back this off, it moves nice and freely. Then this screw here is what will put the auto return on. So we can have auto return on, or if you screw this one in, you can see it takes the tension spring away, so it'll just flop about. And then your left and right tension is done by this screw here. So as we back that one out, we've now got as auto return, and as I'm going to be using it mainly for RC cars, I'm going to tighten this side down. Now you could place a bit of rubber under here if you wanted to make it really stiff, but it's quite stiff to move now. So we're just going to be using that for steering. But yeah, I think we need a bit of a redesign, Flysky, on these two adjusters, as at the minute, as you screw them in, they do absolutely nothing at all because there's a hole underneath here that the screw was in. But hopefully that gives you a good idea of what these actual screws do. What you will need to remember is to get this one to line up with the hole on the back, you're going to have to put these two in the center. So from this, you're going to want them central. And as standard, the sort of tension on that is pretty pathetic. So because the adjustment screw isn't actually working, I'm going to need to back that out, and we're going to have to find something to block the little screw hole. So if I just lift that out, you can see what the problem is. For some reason, Flysky has put a hole at the bottom of here, so the tension screw is just going into that hole. Now this would work if the tension screw was a lot longer. So if this screw was that much longer, it'd work. As it is, it's not going to work. So let me try and find a longer screw or something to plug that hole. So for this, all I've done, I've got a screw that just about fitted in there, a really tiny one. I've screwed it in and I've kept screwing it and snapped the head off so it's flush with bottom. Now if we try and get this mechanism back on, which is always going to be easier said than done. So if we get the original screw, and I just put that in, and now when we tighten this screw up, let's see if I can get an angle where you can see this. So now, because it's not got the hole in the bottom, when I tighten that screw up, you see it winds the mechanism up, and when I loosen it off, it winds the mechanism down, and when the spring's back on this, it's going to hold it in. So yeah, if you just get a little screw, screw it until head snaps off, or put a little grub screw in it, it'll work fine. Other option would be to get a longer screw that goes all the way down to the bottom of that. I'm not exactly sure what Flysky were thinking when they designed that. I think somebody needs to have a word with the design team, because that just doesn't work. And now we've got the lovely task of trying to get the spring back on. That's always easier said than done, but if you've got a tiny little Allen key, you can hook it back up. So if we see it in action now, we've got low tension, and then as we screw that in, we get a lot of tension. So yeah, curious design. It's all adjustable from the back. All we need to remember is this one on the bottom for this side is what does the auto return. So if I screw this in, you'll see the auto return stops working. If I screw this out, you'll see it self-centers. You've just got to guess where the point is because they're not captivated, so don't carry on screwing these else they'll fall out completely. And then this screw is for putting the tension on. This screw is for putting the tension on and off of the left and right. This top one you will be able to get to from the back. So it's going to be this one, I believe, when it lines up. Sorry, this one underneath here. There is a sort of logo on it, and this one at the bottom for the other side. So as we back that off, you'll see we can now move that freely. As we tighten that up, it makes that stiffer and stiffer. And yeah, the strange fix for the tensioners for the up and down on the stick. As you see on this side, I haven't altered this, and no matter what we do with this, it's just all the way at bottom, the tensioner. Whereas if I screw this out, and then I need to lift this off. So you see we're left with the tiny hole at the bottom. Not sure if we can get that on camera. Let's get the adjuster that way. So it's a tiny little hole right down in there. And basically all you need to do is get a tiny screw that fits it. So for me, I started off with this size just to try and make a few threads in it and get it started. And then when we've got that in there, I've got these screws that are a bit soft. So basically, start screwing that in, and then if you keep going, you should be able to crack the head clean off. Once the head's off, we've now got a perfect stop at the bottom of the tensioner, and we can put that back in. And then when we put his adjustment screw in, you can see this will actually rise and fall as it's meant to. And then all we've got to do is get our tiny little Allen key and try and hook the spring. So I'll take the tensioner to the bottom, and we should be able to hook a spring on. And then we've got an adjustable tensioner that works. So now if we loosen this side off, you can see there's very little tension on, it's quite weak. And then if we wind this tension on, we can see now we've got a lot of tension and it's pretty strong. So yeah, just a little bit of alteration. Not sure what Flysky's been doing with that. I can't see how they've tested this because it just doesn't work. The hole should not be in the bottom of that, or else that tensioner just will not work at all. But I've got that and set nice and stiff. So if you really did want to lock this out, you could put a bit of a rubber pad under this arch, and that would make it really stiff. But for me, I'm just going to try it like that. So to get this back together, we got us back of our transmitter. We can just lower it into place. Then if you get this lined up, it just pops back on. And our little side squares, you can work them back in. And as you see on the back here, we've got this tensioner, what changes the friction on this side for up and down. Then you've got your little icons on the various scrolls, and then on this side the tension or friction is there. But yeah, I just thought I'd do that with the back off, because the tension didn't really feel like it was doing anything on the up and down. So be interesting to see if you get a PL18 Ultra, does the up and down tension on the sticks? So does that movement, can you actually get any tension on it? Or do you have to take your transmitter to bits and do the same mod as I've just done? You could do it the way I've done it. You could also do exactly the same thing by swapping the tension screws out for some that are longer, so they'll actually bottom off in that that hole in the gimbals. Again, not entirely sure what Flysky were thinking with that. It clearly does not work at all. The tension adjust on this transmitter for the up and down movement. Really, the price of the transmitter, I'd say it's a bit disappointing. I did get this really early on, so it'd be interesting to hear from you guys if this is a common issue on them, if you can't actually adjust your tension for the up and down movement on each stick. I will feed this back to Flysky, so it'd be interesting to see what response I get from Flysky, whether this is a known issue, whether mine's an early sample and that's why it's got the issue, which I don't mind. I get them nice and early from Flysky. Usually with Flysky as well. I know a lot of guys think that I just praise every single thing Flysky do. Anybody that's been watching my channel for quite a while will remember when they sent me the G7P and the first update bricked it. I did call them out on that. The update that stopped the INR4 calibrating, also reported on that. So yeah, I don't just report on the stuff that I like from Flysky. I try to be completely unbiased, and I just report to you guys on what I find. Overall, I really do like this PL18 Ultra. I like the fact that it's got the SD slot. I like the easier removable battery. Definitely like the much brighter screen. And yeah, I do like the sticks on it now that I've managed to find out why we've got no tension. But yeah, not overly impressed with the price of this transmitter. If we're having to take it apart to kind of get any tension on the sticks for the movement for up and down, that's definitely a bit poor. As for how it feels now, that feels lovely. That's got plenty of tension. So one more thing that I'll show you on these, if I can get that rubber bit to go back in. So the top one of these adjusters, if we pull this down and then I start adjusting this, so you see we're one stop away from the end. If I take it all the way out, we now go all the way down. If we go all the way to the top, this one, as we start winding this in, we can bring the end travel down to like one line or one stop below. So if the travel is too much for you to reach, you can limit what full travel is. You would have to run calibration after that. And again on this one, so if we go all the way to the top, we can rein that in. And if we go on to the bottom one, as we sort of back it out, we can rein that in. So as travel is now between this and this for 100% rather than the outer ones. May have some use for people. But yeah, overall, quite like this transmitter. It's got a much better feel than the original PL18. Just slightly confusing on the not being able to adjust the tension correctly until I take the transmitter apart. But you did get a bonus video of the insides of the actual transmitter, which I weren't intending on doing, but yeah, at least we've got that. And if we plug the battery back in and get his wires safely under that little tab, and then we align the base, we can pop his battery screws back in. And as I've said previously on this, I strongly believe that you only need one screw. I'll put the rest of them back in because I don't want to lose them on mine, and I don't think I'll be taking battery off very often. But yeah, I don't think you need to put all these battery base screws in. But yeah, that's got all the screws back in. Let's make sure we're still working. So thankfully we still have a working transmitter. If we go into menus, stick calibration. So it tells us to leave them all in center, click calibrate, because remember I have restricted the travel down on that stick, so you should be able to see how far it's actually brought it down.
Center point.
So if we do that, back out, calibration successful. Just remember, when you do limit these down, it's worth doing the calibration. If all you're doing is adjusting the tension on the back or making one of these auto return, you don't really need to do calibration on that. But yeah, let's wrap this one up. So there we have it, the PL18 Ultra. How to set the auto returns, how to change the actual friction resistance on the up and down of the sticks, the tension for the left and right, and how to fix the problem with not being able to add tension to the up and down movement. Flysky engineers, you need to have a word with yourself, because that is that's a ridiculous mistake. An easy fix, if you've got some little screws that you can snap the heads off in the holes. Usually when we're snapping heads off in holes like that, it's end of day. This time it's the way to easily, very quickly fix the tension adjust on your brand new PL18 Ultra. Interesting to hear back from any of you guys that have got one of these. Does the tension adjust actually work on yours? Might be worth you flipping back off just to see. If you're turning that tension screw and it's just going down into the actual back of the gimbal holders, yeah, you might need to take that out and just block that hole up somehow. But yeah, thanks again for watching Wtf Rc Cars. Hopefully you find this useful, entertaining, a bit of both. Don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the notification bell, share to friends and family, and catch you guys again in the next one.